This is the Reluctant Leader podcast, the podcast designed to help you if you've landed a leadership role through no fault of your own and now need to find out what you should be doing. I'm your host, Mark Terrell, and have been there and know what it feels like and made all the mistakes. In each episode, I'll be getting to grips with a leadership topic by interviewing an expert in their field. You'll find out why they do what they do and take away some top tips you can use to become a more confident leader. For more content and to keep in touch with how the project is developing, go to www.thereluctantleader.co.uk. If you have any comments about the episode, you'll find me on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. So let's crack on with the show. Today I'm talking to Adrian Chase. Adrian says quite often people will say to him, "So you're a business coach then, Adrian?" His answer to them is always, "What I actually do is coach people that happen to have a business." He says, "For me, it's always people first and business second. I see my job as helping my clients to be in a better position to help others. I'm very honest with myself in terms of who I can help, and I am proud of what my clients achieve. When he works with people, he impresses upon them that they need to make themselves their number one priority, and in that way, they will be in a powerful position to be able to help others. What he actually does is remove resistance for people that have put up their own thought barriers." I hope you enjoy this chat we had about staying calm, and I'll catch you all on the other side. So Adrian, welcome to the Reluctant Leader podcast.
Hi, Mark.
We met some time ago, and I seem to remember that I think you were one of my first one-to-ones within a networking environment because of a previous my retail background. Never did networking, but I seem to remember it was quite a while ago. But I think you were a one-to-one, and anybody that's wondering what a one-to-one is, it's just a meeting when two people after a networking meeting sort of get together and have a chat. So that was, I think that's our first time when we had a bit of a really proper discussion. But here we are again having another discussion. So.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So before we get stuck into the topic, we're going to be talking about staying calm. Before we do that, let's tell us about why you do what you do, and what was that pivotal moment that took you down that path?
Yeah, I think, I quite often think, and I ask my clients to look back through their lives, and quite often there's this thread that runs through your life, and you don't really appreciate it maybe at the times you think about it. It's only when you look back on your life and you think, I was like that then. When the situations happened, I was like that then. So that's what I must be like. And we don't realize it until someone really brings it out of us. So my story is quite simple, really. I worked, like yourself, in retail for a long time. And I sort of left. Didn't know really what I was going to do. So I took up bookkeeping and accounts. Anyway, I've been networking a while, and it was okay. It wasn't mega successful, but it was okay. And I met a coach called Dave Smith, who said to me, would you want to be better at networking, landing more clients? And I said, well, yeah, that would be marvelous. And he said, well, I can help you do that, Adrian. And so I sort of took the plunge. It was a big decision for me at the time. And being in the corporate world for that length of time, I'd never even heard of coaches, didn't know what they were, what they did or anything. And within 3 or 4 months, I was landing clients, sometimes 2 in one meeting. And it was all about really the way he'd got me to think, and the way I asked questions, the way I spoke about how I helped people. And the reason I mention this is because I've always been one that liked to help people. Back in my retail days, I was more than chuffed to have people promoted from my department. A lot of people in the business wouldn't want their best people promoted, but I was always for pushing people forward and helping them get better. So what I did in a small way is started helping other bookkeepers and accountants get better at landing clients. And I've been doing this a while. And what happened was I met another coach, guy called Basmini. And he said to me, Adrian, he said, when you talk about when you're working with people, helping them, land more clients, or, talk about their thinking process, he said, you light up. You don't light up when you talk about bookkeeping and accounts. So what he did is said to me, I can help you get to that place where, possibly you can do it full time. So that's what happened. So in a way, I sort of call myself a product of a product because I've been coached, because I got fascinated by it, because I got better at coaching myself. I now do the same for other people that was done to me. In other words, I was a bit lost. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. And now most people that come to me, not every time, but most of the time, is because they're in a place where they're a bit confused as to where they want to go. And they're a bit confused as how they're going to achieve that. And all I do really is I get them to get to know themselves really, really well first. And then we start talking about where they really want to go and how they're going to achieve that. So that's really why I do what I do. It's to help others, and it's such a thrill.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% with you there, Adrian. And it's interesting what you said about pushing people forward, and I think I relate to that. I was always the one that, when we had like 16-year-olds join our business, it was really, I always had at the back of my mind that when they leave, because I knew they would leave and probably go to university or whatever, and it's what are they going to be like in that 2-year period, and how can I help develop them? And that has always been something that was always at the back of my mind, but probably wasn't something that was focused. But that comes to the forefront when you start coaching, is that actually that's the one thing that I really, lights me up, because I want to see people shine and develop and get, and, make the most of their opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brilliant feeling.
And I like the way that you've had two sort of pivotal moments, meeting two people that first of all saw something that you needed, and then somebody saw something actually that you couldn't see yourself. And isn't that a great thing that coaches, should be looking out for?
I think, and also, as I say, I'm a product of the product. I still use coaches now. I wanted to be much better with my sort of health and nutrition, if you like. And I'm a great believer in if there's so much misinformation about. So go and speak to an expert, go and speak to someone that knows what they're doing, which is what I did. And so now, for example, I'm the weight I wanted to be. I'm as fit as probably I've ever been, in a way. And it's such a great feeling.
Brilliant. Excellent. So let's get stuck into the topic today, which is staying calm. And the reason why I chose that is that you mentioned something in your marketing about Chase stays calm. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, Chase keeps calm.
Keeps calm.
That's
right.
That's one of my Twitter accounts. Yeah.
Yes, I knew I'd seen it somewhere, so obviously it's worked because I've seen it. So hopefully other people have seen it. So I think in a leadership position, one of the traits that we have to learn is really to stay calm in the face of adversity. And we've both come from that retail background, and at times, I'm sure you'll agree, it's very challenging to stay calm.
Yeah, I think especially retail. I know everyone's going to say, well, they all do a difficult job, and but I think the thing about retail, Mark, for me, and I have done other jobs, but that mainly was my career, is that retail, what's happening now is happening now. You can't put it off. So in other words, my simplistic view is, if you've got a great big queue at the tills, you've got to deal with it like now, not, I think I'll sort that out tomorrow, And so in a way, retail is a great teacher in terms of you have to do things pretty quickly. You have to make decisions quite quickly. But alongside that can be a lot of stress,
Mm. Yeah, and being in a leadership position in retail, you have to show that that character, that you don't. You have to make quick decisions, but you can't really make decisions that are shooting from the hip. You've got to stay in that place of understanding what the customer wants, but also understanding where your staff and your team are coming from. It's those two angles you've got to think about at the same time.
Sure. Mm. And the one thing I know about retail, and I know why I was a good manager, was because when the staff needed me, I was there. What I mean by that, so for example, just keeping it simple, if there was a big queue, I always used to just jump on another till and get the queue down. And while you're doing that, you can be chatting away, talking about all sorts. And that's where the learning is for staff a lot of the time. What I call on the job, not necessarily in a classroom, but actually, at the coalface, under pressure. And you can really help them by saying, think about it this way,
Yeah. And you've already said it. Retail is such a great place to learn all sorts of things about, how people interact and how you can get the best from people. It's a great place to learn those skills. So when we talk about staying calm, why is that something that you sort of mentioned? Why have you sort of mentioned it when you mentioned it in your Twitter bio?
Well, it helps me. Yeah, it helps me to stay calm. I've always been pretty calm, but now, because I do what I do and I understand a lot more about calmness, I can see how it's really helped me, and I can see how it really, really helps me now. Knowing how to handle things. I mean, that's the thing. So, if you look at the stats, something like 90% of top performers are skilled at managing their emotions in order to remain calm. And we see it on television a lot. A lot of the top politicians, the person that runs the Bank of England, when you see them on television talking about what would be one of the most stressful things ever, I should imagine, they are completely in control and calm. So that's why it's really important.
Yeah. So when you're working with your clients, Adrian, how do you introduce that concept? Is it something that you introduce directly, or is it something that you actually, it's what people get from working with you?
I think it's a bit of both. The way I start with clients, I talk about human needs. And it's a long old session. I use a set of cards. They're called innate cards, INNATE. And the great thing about the cards is that they've got graphics on the cards. And so people have a visual. Before I used the cards, I used to ask loads and loads of questions, which is the best way to find out information. But these cards are a brilliant conduit for people to, I call, spill the beans. Okay. And before I go through that process with them, I tell them, that they're going to tell me everything I need to know, and that they will spill the beans. And I normally just look at them and say, you will. And they do. And the great thing about that is that it enables them to get everything out. They might tell stories about, what's happened to them in the past. It just brings everything out into the open, which helps me then decide where I first need to take them, So there's some I mean, if I can just tell you a story about something that was really stressing a client, and looking at it in a different way than he was looking at it. So his name's Paul, and he'd been sat with me for 2 or 3 months, and we'd gone through various sessions. And then he said to me one day, "Do you know, Adrian, as we've been talking, I've realised that there's something I really love to do, and I don't do anymore, and that's cycling." And I said, "Oh, well, that's a shame. So why is it that you feel you can't cycle anymore?" Well, he said, "I'm sort of married now, got 2 little kiddies, and do you know, I feel a bit guilty about that." And I said, "Okay." So the first thing I said to him is, it sounds to me as though you feel it's a bit selfish. And he said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Okay, well, if we look at the word selfish, just put a hyphen in the middle. Selfish. Yes, you are being selfish. Why do you want to cycle on your bike?" "Well, because it'll help me, again, it'll help me sort of keep calm, keep me fitter so I can look after the family." So I said, "Really, then there's nothing to feel guilty about." So I just gave him some advice. I said, "Why don't you talk to your wife about it? But why don't you do a deal? Why don't you say to your wife, look, I'd love to go out on a Sunday morning for a couple of hours riding my bike. I appreciate, you're at home all day long looking after the kids and doing what mums do best. But I'm aware that, you need some private time as well. So when I come back, I'll just have a shower and come back down, and I'll look after the kids for 2 or 3 hours on the Sunday morning, and you can do what you want, read a book or go where you want." So she agreed to that. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, Paul was talking about it. I said, how's the cycling going? And he said, "It's great, Adrian. I go out now on a Sunday morning on my bike. I love it. It's great thinking time and all that stuff. And I come home and then I, look after the kids. And sometimes my wife actually doesn't want me to necessarily do that." But he said, "Do you know what I found is that now it's the first time in my life that I've spent 2 or 3 hours alone with my children." And he said, "I've got to the point now where I don't want it not to happen." He said, "It's such a joyous thing." Who would have thought? And so, that's just an example really of helping someone, negotiate, think a bit differently, give the other person something. Rather than just say, I'm going to go off on my bike for 2 hours this morning. I mean, that's never going to go down that well. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is what I teach my clients is to think in a way, think in a process for themselves that helps them, but also think about how that affects other people, and think about how people do what they do and why they do it, because that helps you then give them the solution.
That's a great example. There's a couple of things there, actually, I was going to point out. Firstly, it's the classic, when you're told on the aircraft to put your own mask on if needs be before you're helping others. And illustrates that you've got to be the best person you can be so that you can be the best person for your loved ones. And I think we all lose sight of that, and the things that we really want to do, as long as they're not things that are actually out there and are going to really hurt people, then we should do things because we're going to be a better person for it. That's a really good thing to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually something you just said I quite like. This idea of we can do this, but we need to make sure we're not hurting other people as we do it. And so, for example, Paul was a great example, wasn't it, of, give and take. I want this, but I can give you that. And actually, in the end, both of them probably got more than they thought they were going to get.
Yeah, and exactly that, and obviously it's a win-win situation, and also something's come out of it that wasn't expected either, and isn't that a great thing? So yeah, it's a great story.
It is a great thing.
Okay, so going back to this, the topic of leadership and keeping calm. Is there anything you can think back to in your leadership back in your retail days that, staying calm worked for you, or vice versa, where you maybe on an occasion you didn't, and the consequences of that?
Yes, a good question for me. Do you know, Mark, I can't hardly think of any occasion where I wasn't calm. It's an interesting thing, but it's true. Yeah. And I notice I had one of the bosses I had, my retail experience, was a fantastic guy, really a great leader. And I don't suppose he'd been trained on any of this. He was just naturally very good at understanding other people and knowing how to get them to do, what he thought would be best. When I was a regional manager, there was 4 of us, and this guy was the director in charge of us. And all 4 regional managers were totally different characters. There's one that was very bombastic. There was one that was very argumentative. There was me that was, pretty laid back, to be honest, and so forth, and he was brilliant at handling all that. And so when I was out with him doing branch visits, he knew it was absolutely pointless raising his voice. And so what he used to do was embarrass me by something I'd failed to achieve or see. And that for me was a killer. If he pointed out something, you're a great bloke, Adrian, but you haven't noticed that. I used to think, that was a real failure for me. If he'd have shouted at me, I probably just would have walked off anyway, So I think I've always been a pretty calm person, to be honest. It's just the way I am.
I guess in that is a bit of a role model for you as well. Obviously, the way you talked about him there, he's obviously someone that you want to aspire to be like.
Well, I think
we're all looking for people like that.
Yeah, what he taught me was that find out how someone's thinking and then react in the correct way for them. Rather than just reacting exactly the same way to everyone you meet, because actually it doesn't really work very well. I quite often will say to clients, when you meet people that are similar to you, well, that's easy. So, for example, yourself and myself, in some ways we're similar. We've been in retail, and so it's probably very easy for us to have that meeting. Very easy. But when you meet people that you think, wow, I don't think I'm ever going to get to like this person, or you don't like them from the beginning. And so I think one of the skills I hope I impart to people is this ability to get to understand why others are the way they are. And once you understand that, actually, there's not many people you can't get on with.
No, it's about understanding people's story, isn't it? And what people have been through shapes us, and the people that we've met along the way, the people that have influenced us, from our parents through to other wider family, the people that we meet at work. All those people hopefully we all are picking up good things from those people. And I think that's from where I come from my point of view, I think you just pick things from different people and you think, what is it about that person I like? Or vice versa, what is it I don't like about that person? So I can say and help myself not be like that.
It's interesting. I've had some clients that when I first met them, in my mind, I'm thinking this person is very unlikely to ever be a client. That was my first impression, if you like. And actually, they are clients, and I think it's because I've been able to get past that idea of I don't think I'm going to get on with this person, and be able to ask enough questions that then I start to understand. Oh, right, okay, I can see now why that person's got that problem. And it might be that they're just really not very good at communicating. It might be that simple. When people say to me, "Do you know, Adrian, it doesn't matter what I say, the staff just seem to just do what they want." And eventually, most times, they'll come up with their own conclusion. They'll say to me, "Do you think I'm communicating in the right way?" And that's the great thing. And you'll know, Mark, that's the great thing about coaching. It's drawing out of people, where they are, where they want to be, but they'll tell you what's going wrong if you just, speak to them in the right way, ask the right questions. Yeah. And so I love that. So you can then lead them. And of course, once they've said to you, "Do you think that's the problem?" Because they know it is, then you know where to go straight away. And I love that,
Yeah. Absolutely. I was just thinking, we're running out of time. We've still got a few minutes before we sum up. Have you got any other stories that would be useful for the listeners that probably stories of other clients that have come to you that you've been able to sort of help them?
Well, look, I've got one that's about me, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
But it's something that happened. And again, I talk about this thread that runs back through your life. So just quickly, when I was a sort of teenager, I played in various groups and bands and so forth. And of course, there comes a time when you do your very first gig. You've got this gear and you've been practicing with other lads or whatever it is, but you book this gig, and the gig was actually at it's called the Roundabout Hotel in Fareham, not far from Portsmouth, and it was our first gig. And I was stressed for months before that gig, months, and everything could go. Could I remember what I'm playing? Could I remember all the notes? Would they be in the right order? Would we go down well? Would the equipment not break down? This sort of stuff. And honestly, when I look back now, it was terrible. And obviously, we did the gig, and actually it went okay, as things normally do. Because I then did more and more and more gigs, it came to me, I just thought about, well, I can't live like this, So what I used to do in the end, I was in, as you probably aware, this group called Chinatown, and we used to gig a lot. I mean, a lot. And so I then learned that I could flick a switch in terms of getting excited. So before the gig, to set up all the stuff, I probably used to stand at the bar and get a pint, and that was my best time. I used to be absolutely calm. I'd be having a pint, looking at the equipment on the stage, thinking, "Wow, this is going to be a great evening." The time I got nervous was when we went wherever we were changing to put our stage clothes on. I then allowed myself at that moment, well, right, let's now get excited. And I think that's the thing. I think people, can control that if they want to. And you and I know probably quite a few people that over the years have had to do that. They've had to control their nerves. The great lesson really is that it can be done. No one taught me to do that, but it just seemed to make common sense to, say to yourself, this is when I allow myself to get a bit nervous and not before.
Yeah. And I guess what you're saying there is actually learning to talk to yourself in a way that you probably would to your best friend, rather than the way that you would, that internal dialogue that's probably, not helping you at all.
Yeah, and of course, I didn't discuss it with anyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone in the band probably had their own way or didn't, Yeah. But it's just a great way of explaining, really, that you can control these things. They're thoughts. And if you've got thought control, then you can control a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, we're running out of time. So the time's come to us to sort of wrap things up. And as I always do with my guests, to give them the opportunity to give us 3 top tips or more, if the case may be. But how would you like to leave us with some top tips to take forward?
Well, I'll leave us with 3.
Mm-hmm.
There are loads of tips, but these are the ones that I suppose have helped me. So why wouldn't I give those? So what I want to talk about is planning ahead. Okay, so it's not always possible to guarantee exactly what may happen, but we probably have a pretty good idea of the general types of pressure we may face on a daily basis. So if we decide in advance on a few possibilities that could occur and how you'll handle them, being present and aware, giving yourself thinking time will make all the difference. And I always say to everyone, see in your mind and imagine the very best outcome. So, you may be giving a speech, you may be going to a network meeting, depending what it is. But see in your mind and imagine the very best outcome. The other one really is, and we've heard the expression before, but I think it's a great thing. So don't sweat the small stuff. So some tasks are not actually that important, and we have a habit of building them up. So that they appear more important than they should be. And I think, I don't know about you, Mark, but I think procrastination, and these quite often, will allow us to see that some of them can remain undone for later with no major consequences.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that whereas we have, and this to me is crucial to get into the mind, worries we have get heavier in the mind the longer we leave them there. So things, that might be on your to-do list, and they're on there, and they're on there, and they're on there, and you think, I really, really, really must be doing this. It might be something like paying the mortgage. The more you keep them in your mind, the heavier they get. They don't get bigger, they get heavier in the mind. And it's important to understand that. So what you'll see some people may even start to physically stoop as these thoughts get heavier. So I just say, setting priorities helps us to maintain a sense of control. So don't allow that to happen.
Brilliant
and
stuff.
Really the last one I've got, which a lot of people talk about, but it actually works, so it's worth talking about, is control your breathing. So whenever we're anxious, we can't help it. We tend to take quick, sort of shallow breaths. And really, another word for that is hyperventilating. And, it can make us feel dizzy, lightheaded, panicky. That also interferes with your judgment. So I just say, if you catch yourself hyperventilating, try inhaling a deep breath through your nose, holding it for 5 seconds, and releasing it from your mouth. Repeat this exercise until you feel calmer. It is a form of meditation, but it works. And I know I've had moments, not necessarily recently, but moments through my life where Wow, that sure would have helped.
Brilliant. I love those. And I must admit, just spending 30 minutes talking to you, I definitely feel calmer just having the opportunity to talk to you for 30 minutes, Adrian. It's been.
I love that.
So thank you for your time today. You've given a great value, and I hope to see you. We haven't seen each other in real flesh, or in real life, or whatever you want to call it. For some time, we must do that shortly. But for now, thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you ever so much, Mark. It's been a brilliant chat. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to leave a review. Don't forget to check out the Reluctant Leader project at www.thereluctantleader.co.uk. Make a note to start, stop, or continue doing whatever struck a chord in this episode. And until next time, be the best you can be.